The streets of London were dark and colder than they had ever been the night that Whitechapel became a town struck with fear. I'd like to take a few minutes and talk to you about a man called Jack the Ripper. I'll talk about who he was, some of the effects that he had, and the mystery that surrounds him. So who was Jack the Ripper? You could say that he was a legend, a conqueror. He tore through 19th century London and slaughtered 5 to 11 prostitutes for reasons that we don't know. The 5 most well-known victims were killed from the end of August to the beginning of November in 1888. Jack the Ripper stood in front of his victims, he strangled them, and he lowered their bodies to the ground and cut their throats. He mutilated them and removed organs and body parts. This is a crime scene picture of the 5th victim, Mary Jane Kelly. So you know who Jack the Ripper is and pretty much what he's done. So now we're going to talk about some of the effects that he had. Fear was a big effect. London was terrified. There were 5 vicious, violent, brutal murders, and no one had been arrested. This was a day and age with no fingerprinting, no DNA, so you literally had to catch somebody committing a crime to try them as a criminal. That was actually when sneakers were invented, because the police were out patrolling the streets and their shoes were very loud on the cobblestone, so they put rubber on the bottom so that they could sneak up on Jack the Ripper. So another effect that he had was that he changed the way that we see killers today. What do you think of when you look at this picture? Do you think of a vicious, violent, brutal murderer who slaughtered half a dozen or more women and left them in the streets to die? Do you think of this?
No.
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 Jack the Ripper somehow made murder poetic. It was very mysterious, and we don't know why he killed. It was mysterious. So you know who he was, some of the effects that he had. Let's talk about the mystery that's around Jack the Ripper. He was the subject of a failed investigation. He was never caught. The investigators could observe everything they wanted. The police could alter their shoes. No one would find Jack the Ripper. He was great at not getting caught, at evading authorities. At least 4 of his victims were killed outside, while, like I said before, there were police patrolling the streets. He had a very small frame of time to kill these women, butcher them, and that's the mystery of Jack the Ripper. He's the puzzle that you want to put together, even if you don't like puzzles. The pieces are out on the table, so you're going to sit down, you're going to spend 20, 30, 40 minutes trying to put it together, and you're going to find out that the last piece is missing. Today there are over 170 suspects of Jack the Ripper. With that being said, the streets of London remain dark and cold the way that they started. Jack the Ripper murdered, he affected society. It's nearly impossible to say who he was, and it's a safe assumption that he'll remain a mystery. In fact, I'm not sure all that many people want to know who Jack the Ripper was. He will always remain that mysterious figure, lurking in the shadows of 19th century London, enshrined in a picturesque scene with a glistening knife clasped in his hand. He will remain the killer of his time, the one who drew much more attention than he should have, and the one that got away. He will remain Jack the Ripper. Thank you.
Very good.
We did it!
Yay. Awesome. Totally awesome.